In this video, I'm going to go over the techniques used to produce this animation. Again, with music, hopefully YouTube will allow me to post these 3 or 5 seconds of this song. So what we've got is a cloner object that is being affected by a sound effector. I'm not going to get into the lighting and how we handled that, but we will at least get into the basics. Start by creating a new scene in Cinema 4D. Add a MoGraph cloner object to your scene, and add a cube object to your cloner object. What's happened is it's created 3 copies of our cube. I'm going to make this a smaller cube, so I'm setting the sizes to x20, y20, and z20. And I'm going to change the type of my cloner from a linear cloner to a radial cloner, so it will now clone in a circle. I'm changing the plane from xy to xz, so it happens on the floor. And I'm going to increase the radius to 250, and let's increase the count here until most of our clones are nearly touching each other. We're now going to adjust the Y scale of these clones using a sound effector. So before you use any effector, first select the cloner object you want it to affect, then go to MoGraph, Sound Effector. The sound effector lets you bring in an audio file, and I believe it has to be a wave or an AIF that's 44.1 kilohertz or 4100 kilohertz. So you can find out exactly what by going to Show Help here. Let's load in a sound file. And then press play. Now, you might not have a real-time update of this graph right here. To ensure that you do, go into Edit, Preferences, and on the Common tab, turn on Real-Time Spinner so that you can get a live update on that graph there. This represents the sound file that we're watching. It's a waveform, basically, of the different frequencies. As we can see, most of our frequencies are over here on the left-hand side. So what I'm going to do is adjust my settings so that these frequencies are spread out across all of these individual clones. Also, as we watch it, notice that all of the clones are moving simultaneously. That's because our mode is currently set to apply all. Change it from all to step and play through. You'll now get something that looks like this. You can see that we're lower on this side, which represents this portion of our frequency band, and higher over here. Let's go ahead and adjust our filter settings so that we can hone in on this section where there's actually something happening in our sound file. So turn on Use Filter. Adjust the bandwidth setting, and you'll see that there's this little blue line that starts popping up. As you increase your bandwidth, notice that we're getting a greater magnitude of change across our clones. If we adjust our compression setting, we can adjust how strong an effect we're having. And what we want to do is adjust our compression until the highest peak hits just the top of our graph here. The filter shape here allows us to change how the different parts of our frequency are represented. So if you only want certain portions to have a large effect, you would draw out a graph that might look something like this. And you can really magnify or quiet down certain portions. And as we take a look, the graph is looking a little bit different now. I'm going to reset my filter shape by right-clicking and choosing Reset. And instead, I'm going to draw it in again and sort of invert it so that the higher peaks are a little bit lower and the lower peaks are significantly higher. And after doing that, I'm going to increase our compression yet again to magnify the results. So we get something that looks like this. Right now, my clones are all dancing up and down on the y-axis, but I want them to actually scale, not just move. So I'm going to go into my Parameter tab, turn off Position, and turn on scale. And for scale here, you start with 0, and as you ratchet it up, it affects the size of your objects. I'm going to choose a scale of 10 on Y. And now as I press play, notice that these shapes are scaling. The one problem that I have with this is that they are all scaling from their centers, not from their bottoms. They're intersecting with the floor. To correct this, I'm going to temporarily turn off my cloner object and take a look at my cube. I'm now going to add a null object to my scene. So go to Objects, Null Object. And what you want to do is move your cube up so that it's resting on the floor. For me, that's a Y position of 10. Then you want to put your cube inside of your null object and drag that null object inside of your cloner object again, so it will scale from the axis of your null object. So now as I play, again, nothing is happening, but if I turn my cloner back on, I get this. Now for the rest of my animation, like what you saw here, all I've done is add in a text object and a simple camera rotation, and we get an animation like this. And without too much effort and a little bit of lighting, you've got a fun little bumper.